Welcome to the Live Wildly podcast, a space where we explore how to live our wildest expressions while nourishing our hearts. Here we come together to share about our life paths, authentic expressions, and heart's wisdom with one another. We cover all things motherhood, spirituality, adventure, health and wellness, and more. I'm your host, Olivia Ashley, a mama, intuitive, and seeker of a joyful, inspired life. Let's dare to live wildly together. Hello there. Welcome to another week. I'm so excited you're here and listening. And today we have a really fun episode in that I am going to be doing a Q&A. So I have a submission form on my website, and then I also polled lots of you listeners out there, what would you like to hear about in the next episode if I were to do one of these? And I got such a good response and lots of feedback. So I'm not going to give too much of an update in the start of this episode because I think we're going to get pretty deep and you're going to hear a lot of what is going on in my life, how I'm feeling around certain things just based on your questions. And so if you enjoy this episode, I'd love if you'd rate and review and subscribe to this podcast. And then also, if you would like to submit any questions, I'll link below the page to the submission form. And also feel free to DM me, hit me up on Instagram, however you want, and let me know what you're thinking, what came up for you, and if there's a topic that you would really love to hear about. I know we're still getting to know each other. This is episode 9. Wow, I am so proud of myself. I can hardly believe that we are this far and this deep as we are in mid-June now. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for listening, for pressing play, for getting excited about this, and for asking me all these juicy, amazing questions. So I think I'm going to just dive right in. The first question came through is, how do I currently feel most alive in the flow of my day? How do I make time, or do I have a system to make sure that these things happen, such as self-care, a date night, time with friends, especially being a mom? This is a really wonderful question. Thank you for asking. I'd have to say I feel most alive in my day and most alive in the flow of my day by releasing expectations. We have such a full, beautiful, hard life. There's just so much happening, and I'd say I'm just going to reflect kind of through a typical routine of my day. And if I feel wonderful and good, it's really because I've found balance and a space to just breathe, achieve the meetings, achieve the tasks that I need, and flow. So I start my day by letting myself sleep in. Stone is still currently sleeping with me. I have goals to possibly put him in the crib. If my husband hears this, I will totally put him in the crib. It's been a challenge. I've never had any of my children sleep separate to me, but I know life would be better if we could all sleep a little better. But with that, I let us sleep in. And so we're usually up around 7 to 7:30. And that gives me enough time to get ready for work as I start my day at 8 typically. And I just relax. Lily comes in and we snuggle Stone. Sometimes Forrest comes in too, and then we get on with our day. But just having no alarm and rolling out of bed, getting myself dressed, and yeah, that feels just really juicy and nice for me. I would say I do miss some routine of I used to do weekly calls and walks around 6 a.m. with friends every week, and that felt super supportive. But right now, sleep is not a given, and so I am letting myself soak up all of that I can take. And to feel really alive in my day, I'd say I try to move my body every single day. And I have really been feeling nourished by yoga again, and a good hatha or vinyasa flow, but ones where they're reflective. There's really this soft, wonderful music. It's bringing me back to the roots of my yoga practice. And I am feeling called so deeply to start up a meditation practice again, or just a mindfulness practice, because I am off my game as I sit and reflect here. I typically journal most days. That feels super, super good to get everything out of my brain, all my stresses, worries, whatever, at the end of the day. But I just have not been able to pull that into my routine again with holding the baby and then trying to write. It just has not been a thing, but I'm feeling the pull to do that because it makes me feel better. And then the household feels better. And how do I make time for myself? I just force it. I am someone that has a lot of mom guilt, that if I'm not doing something for them or with them, or if I take time away, I feel bad. I feel worried. I don't know if others can relate to that. I mean, I even had this probably before being a mom, but when I would leave my partner or just my house, I would just feel so guilty, or like I'm not cherishing them the way I need to, even though I'm with them 1,000% of my time. It's a must. It is a must. So saying I need to just close my door, I'm going to come up, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to go do a yoga class. I try to get out to a studio once a week. Date night is something we need to work on. We were trying to plan for once a month, and it's been once every 9 months, as stoned as 9 months. And we've done one date night. Thank you, Abby, my friend, for watching the kids that one day. Maybe I'll hit you up again soon. Yeah, it is a struggle. So I'd say I'm not the best at this, but it is a priority that every day I need to do something for myself, which is typically water, movement, reflection, and some quiet solitude. So sometimes that could be on a walk, sometimes that's upstairs or while Stone is napping on me. It just is so important. And then also making time with my husband, Steven, to just have some time to talk, look at each other in the eyes, like just talk over while someone's making dinner or while we're sitting there at the end of the night. Have some connection time is very important. Those things are really making me feel most alive, taking care of myself, taking care of others. I'm a huge nurturer and caretaker for sure. So those things light me up. And then connecting with friends, community, community, community. Tomorrow I have a lovely get together with a couple girlfriends. We're going to go paint pottery and just have our circle time together. That's been hugely fulfilling and supportive to me, to have girlfriends and other women around me that I can call on, that have my back, that just are beautiful, wonderful friends. That, I mean, is above and beyond anything I could ever dream of in terms of support, because they get you. Having your woman, having your close people who see you for who you are and be vulnerable with outside of your partner is a must. So those would be my tips for that question. My next question is, how do I show up in the low moments for myself? It's easy to fill everyone else's cup up, but what about yours? How do you prioritize it, especially when you're feeling down? What another great question that kind of ties into what I was just talking about, but really specifically, showing up in the low moments. And I can feel this deep in the sense that there has just been a lot of emotionality, a lot of challenges, struggle, worries that are coming up in my partnership, in my day-to-day life. And it's made me feel really off. I've really, really been struggling, like wanting to just internalize, to, I don't want to say escape. I know what that feels like, and I don't feel like I'm doing that, but I'm hermiting. That's a word I use a lot. I'm a Cancer sun, and so I relate to that crab and that hermit, like go into my shell and just be by myself and stew in myself. And I don't love that, but I also think that there is a place for it, that it's actually can be very supportive. At least I have found, to sit with these feelings, to say, this is a really shitty day. This does not feel good. And that's okay. I'm just going to roll with this. I'm going to feel it. I'm going to cry. I might need to be angry, but I also have to check myself with how I show up to others, because I am someone whose mood is very known, and I heavily affect my family and people around me. And I don't mean to, but I'm just it just seems to be that way for me as like a very deep empath and just energetic. I mesh with other people. And so sometimes I also have to check and say, is this even mine? Am I feeling low because someone else is? Like my partner is not feeling well. And then I'm taking that on to myself, saying, it must be me. Oh, I did something wrong. If he's not happy, then I must not be making him happy, things like that. I can spiral pretty well with that. And that doesn't feel good too. So I show up for myself by, again, asking for some space, trying to communicate how I'm feeling, that this is just not a good day. I don't feel okay. Sometimes I know why, sometimes I don't know why. And like, I'm just not okay. And so I really then lean on others around me to have to try to help me with the load of the day. And I think of this Brene Brown talk that I was listening to where she was saying that marriage especially is not a 50-50. It is this ebb and flow and give and take, and you show up with 20 and then I'm going to show up with 80, and like we are going to flow together, and sometimes we're both going to have 20 and we're going to do our best, but being able to communicate and be there still with each other is utterly important. And it makes me just reflect on that because it is so important. It is such a big piece to know that it's not always an evenness in life. And I think sometimes I get really low and resentful, that I feel overwhelmed, that I feel like I'm doing everything and no one else cares. No one picks up the sticker that's been on the stairs for a month because I just left it there, being like, someone will surely do it, right? No, I'll do it. And that's okay. Like I've really had to come to terms with, this is what I can give. And if it bothers me, I have to do it. But then I need to release the resentment that can build up and the anger where I feel just utterly overwhelmed by our space. And truthfully, I would love to get up to a place of minimalism. When we lived in the RV, it was like we lived our best life. We had such little stuff, but filling my own cup. Yeah, it's a reminder. It is so easy to fill everyone else's, to make sure the kids are dressed and together and fed and watered and all the things. And then, have I done that for me? Have I reflected, or has someone else helped me with that? When I feel really low, it's this call for help too, that I'm not taking care of myself, or I am prioritizing other people's well-being over my own. And then asking for help as much as I don't want to, because it was ingrained in me as a child that you just, what is it, buckle up buttercup type methodology, and that you're along for the ride and you deal with it and you don't pout about it. And I don't think that helps though. At least for me, my moods will simmer till they boil and explode. And I don't want to get to that place. So checking in and knowing that I can take the space, I can remove things off my calendar, I can take a mental health day. I think just being able to do that for yourself and identify when you're at that space keeps me going. And that would be my best advice for that one. The next question is, how do you stay so positive even when going through hard things? These are so good and along the same line. I would not say I was always a positive person. I would actually say I was probably the most negative Nelly you could meet up until probably sometime in college. That's not to say I was like cruel or mean. I could be, but I loved the people I loved. And then the rest were like, you get I think of like a hedgehog, you get my spines and stickers. Sorry, everyone, back at that time. And I still have a little bit of this, but I learned that life is so much harder when you are negative and when your emotions are stuck inside, when you are just feeling sad, depressed, all those things. And that's not to say that I band-aided or pretended I wasn't those things. I think those are completely valid feelings. Let me say that. So valid. I have felt all that myself. But there came a point in my time where I was not happy with how I was. I wasn't happy with how I thought, with how I spoke, with how I was showing up in my life. And I realized, I think I have a hand in this. And so I started to really surround myself with positive affirmations, positive people, positive books, self-help books. With music, oh man, music, that is a game changer. As someone who I get the goosebumps when I hear really just, I'm going to say beautiful. I mean, it depends on the music. It can be any type of music, truthfully, but there's just this sound and this feeling that comes through me that I feel it in my whole body. And I get goosebumps sometimes when I listen to music. That really helped heal and support me to maintain positivity, even when I was going through hard things. And I've learned I can face hard things with strength. Not to say that that's covering anything up, but I can still lead. I can still feel strong. I can still feel positive in life. And I'm going to say I've had very hard days where I didn't feel this, and that was okay too. But I've always swung back to this middle neutral point of I want to have a happy life and I want to have a joyful life. And that starts with me. And that starts with how I talk, with how I think, with all of those pieces. So even when I've gone through really hard things, I feel those emotions. I let that anger, that fear, the frustration, whatever that is that I'm faced with, I let that be known and felt. But then I come back and say, okay, what am I learning from this? How do I find a solution if I need one? And then how do I continue on my day and support myself? And then I lean back onto everything I talked about in those other questions of yoga, meditation, affirmations, movement, health, like nutrition, energy work, Reiki, all those things help me maintain this positive force that I bring because I think that's important. And then I feel good and I can move through the hard pieces with more presence and more neutrality, I would say, through it. On to the next question. How is grief showing up for you now, and how do you support yourself through it? This is a really real question for me right now because yesterday was Father's Day. And while at first in the morning, I was like, I feel okay. I think I'm going to be fine. I didn't get to see Steven really any part of the day till the very end of the day because he worked and had a full day outside of the house. So it was just me and the kids. But as I was driving around, it's really interesting. There's this one stretch of road where I had just gotten off the phone like a year ago with my mom, and I was told around my father, it's bad, it's the end, like it's any day now. And I was right there on that stretch of road. And this is a stretch of road I drive anytime I drive. If I go into town, it's just, it's the path. So I drive it a lot. And it just holds this grief space for me. And I've really tried to imagine, rework how this feels when I drive through it, like resilience and power and the good memories. But it was probably my deepest depths of breakdown when I was driving in this space that it gets me, man. It gets me. And so I drove that stretch yesterday as I took the kids to a park and just, yeah, broke me. I felt it. I felt it deep. I felt my loss so deep. And, it was hard. It was this moment of like, the world is so weird. Like, it's supposed to be a happy day and like everyone's going about their days. And then here I am in this deep grief and confusion. And grief is so strange in that it elicits this range of emotions. And it's almost like for me, I go into this dreamland, this other dimensional world where things look a little different, feel a little different, and I'm knocked off my foundation. And so it's showing up hard, deep for me right now. There's a lot of sadness around not being able to have him here, and even the reality of like, it's real, he's not here. A lot of times it still doesn't feel real that I can't just call him. I see a photo of him and I'm like, oh, it's dad. We still have his phone. So, and my kids FaceTime their aunt, but my youngest sister all the time to play, and it's through his phone. And so I'm calling him often. And yeah, it's heavy right now. And I'm trying to support myself by, again, just moving through it, knowing that it ebbs and flows. And today, right now, is really hard. And I being who I am and feeling like I can connect to him, even though he's gone, supports me deeply. And so I do that a lot. I ask for guidance, I ask for a sign. There's certain songs that will come on that just make me think of him. Yeah, all those are really supportive to me and at least give me some help or feel like he's here. He often always expresses how much he's sorry that he's left, and that one just like stabs me. I don't know why. That just, I know his soul for whatever reason decided this was the time, and his body for sure, it was at a point where it was not survivable. But I know mentally and emotionally, and just his willpower wanted to stay. He was not ready to leave this earth, but having the connection to him and being able to talk to him through my intuition and my gifts has been a lifesaver. It's been something that very much comforts me. And yeah, that's kind of all I have to lean on, and then support from friends and family and talking about it, just checking in with my siblings. How are we? How's it going? That really, really helps. Okay, next question is, how do I handle doubt and where has it shown up for me? This is very relative too, because I feel like sometimes I really struggle with imposter syndrome, or this feeling like, who am I to be doing this? Or who am I, right? That really deep, big question. Especially this podcast, knowing that I have another job, right? I do all this corporate work, and then you know, I do Akashic record readings here and there, and I support my friends through a circle. And then I have this podcast where I'm asking beautiful, wonderful, brilliant women and men to come on and speak their truth and talk about their business. And I sit here and go, well, who am I to ask? Who am I to even lead this interview? What do I have to offer? Because I have a very small following, and social media, I've spent my life avoiding. So hence my small following. I've only just recently started to come out of the closet, I guess you could say, in the social media realm. So I really struggle with feeling worthy to send an email, to make the request, to ask for someone else's time. And that doubt really creeps in of, well, what is this even going to move the needle towards? Or is this really impactful? And my goals with this is really to create community, to help guide, teach people through stories, through lessons, and have a wonderful time. Like, just come on and let's talk, and have all of you listeners out there enjoy. But it creeps in, that doubt. I think I've always struggled with that, even in my corporate job, and to speak up, to raise my hand, to say I have an idea and I am worthy to share it. I doubt my abilities. I doubt my strength to really see things through. And so to deal with it is, well, I will be completely candid that I dealt with it for many, many years by avoidance. I avoided, I procrastinated, or I just simply didn't do it. And that was how I dealt. And that, at the time, no, it didn't serve me very well, but it maintained this level of okayness within myself that I wasn't ready to show up, period. I was having babies, I was healing, I was doing a lot of inner work. And then I've kind of gotten to this point where, damn, I'm strong, I'm rooted, let's do this. That's my mentality. And so when doubt creeps in, it's kind of amazing. I love synchronicities too. Often I'll be really, really struggling and be like, do I just throw the towel in, just pull the rug out? And a friend will say, hey, I listened to your podcast and wow, that was so supportive. I love hearing your story. It made me cry, or it made me feel this. And I'm like, oh, okay, I can do this. I'm listening. This is worthy. This is worthy of my time. Let's show up. Let's lead. Let's do this, because I have no intentions of folding. I am here, you guys. If you are listening, we're in it for the long game. Let's do this together. I promise I'm going to keep showing up, and I'm going to keep bringing awesome content to the best of my abilities for you all and for myself. And I really hope to grow this community. But I think this feeling of I don't have a small business, right? I don't have this. I'm teaching yoga, I'm teaching Reiki, I'm doing any of this. I have all this knowledge and all this beautiful things that I'm undergoing, and like herbalism, just doing it because I'm really excited about it. But again, like it's not necessarily at this moment gonna bring me money. And so sometimes my doubt is coupled with this monetary expectation of worth. Like you're only worthy to do something if you're monetarily and externally receiving validation from it. And yes, I mean, that's huge. It's a big reason why we do it. But at the same time, a lot of what I've done is because my hearts of hearts has said, this is important. This is going to help you, support you. And a lot of everything I've moved through is to help support me personally because I was a hot mess for many years of my life. I will be honest. I struggled, I escaped, I led through addiction. I just was a really shitty, crappy person in my relationships and other things. And I have worked and healed and focused so intensely on that this last decade that now I'm ready to just say, I can trust this path. I think that's the other piece of how do I handle doubt? I have gotten to the place where I've stopped asking, well, what's next? Or where is this leading me to? The future is so unknown. I have to kind of remove that. And I've also been able to remove my past in the sense of I see it, I own it. That's my story. I know that's how it built me up to be who I am. But now I'm here and I can only focus on the here and the now. And that doubt starts to leave. At least for me, it starts to go away. I start to feel it a little bit less. And I'm able to move forward with strength. And every time I take a step forward with what I'm trying to do, that doubt gets a little quieter because I showed up and then I have a typically very positive response, or I have no response, but I did it. And that validated myself internally. Like I took the action I wanted to take. I'm proud of myself. I can do it again. So sometimes it's just even about doing it, starting, and that it starts rolling the ball. I imagine this like snowball that I push down a hill, and sometimes it kind of hits a bump or it might get a little jammed, but then a wind blows and it keeps going. Like, we got this. And just trust yourself. You're worthy, you're smart, you're capable, you're here. Whatever it is that you're moving forward through and whatever doubt that you're feeling, note that typically in time it will be resolved, and just find ways that you feel you can combat it, because don't let it win. Sometimes there's a doubt that's worthy, like to hear that something's not right. This is your inner voice saying, nope, you know, this isn't good. But doubt typically I find is a fear response. It's a fear place where we're hitting our edge and our ego saying, I want you to feel safe. So I'm going to doubt and question, and I want you to analyze this to make sure you're okay. And just quiet the mind and feel into your heart and then see where it takes you. Next question is how to deal with the fear of showing up as spiritual. I love this one because it is so big and relevant, I think, to the times, especially today, and especially the wounds of our past lives, wounds of our mothers, wounds of fathers too, of this knowing that we have this ability typically, and maybe, I mean, oftentimes you don't know, but for a lot of us, we have this connection. Sometimes we find it through religion, but oftentimes spirituality, I like to decouple them. They can be coupled, especially if that's in your life and that's what works for you. But for me, it's this like bigger knowledge and knowing that I'm connected and there is just so much more out there. And I find spirituality through connection with the earth, connection with myself, my ancestors, past loved ones, and through my energy work, through Reiki, through yoga, I can find it and feel it. And there for a long time was a huge fear of me showing up as spiritual, of even being coupled as spiritual, because I've gotten so much flack in my life because I think I've always kind of leaned towards this even before I was deeply spiritual in the way that I am now or have practices that I do. I was always seen as like the tree hugger. I don't know if you remember this commercial. There was a car commercial, and I think it was like the grandma takes the granddaughter out and she like goes on this adventure, and they get out and there's this tree, and the grandma hugs it and is like, come on, come give love to it. My siblings saw that and were like, oh my gosh, it's Olivia. That's you. And like I was like, yeah, that is me. Like I would totally go hug a tree. Yes, please. But it's the shame, it's the joking, it's the feelings that we are less than because we are spiritual. Like, what is that about? And I have to say, I think it's a lot of people's fear of, we've really built a society around science, around our mental mind, analyzation of where's the facts, I want to see the facts, and that is truth. But spirituality is having more and more research come out that there is truth and connection. There's truth in intuitive gifts and abilities that are way beyond, we can't see it, but there are ways to research it and get the data in a way, if that's something you need. It makes me think of this documentary. I think it's called Superhuman on Amazon Prime. I think you can watch it. Just Google it. But that was a really fun one and very much more science-based, and talked about the research behind a lot of intuitive type things. And again, it's a little different than spirituality. I think they go hand in hand. But the fear of it, yeah, I hid. It's only recently, if I'm honest, that I have felt comfortable and able to come out even on this podcast and shout to the world, I am a deeply spiritual human, and that fuels me. And I think I deal with the fear by knowing it's my truth, knowing that I am a better human, I'm a better person when I connect, when I follow these practices, and when I show up in this way for myself, that it's my truth. And so I don't feel bad sharing it as much anymore. And I also have a lot of close friends who are deeply spiritual, get this, intrigued by it, and we have conversations together. So often I found it is not about shouting to everybody that you're deeply spiritual and this is who you are. You need to share your truth when and where that feels right. But I think that there is something to be said of not sharing with everyone. If it comes up, sure. But knowing that, like, my corporate job doesn't need to know that. If someone's interested or I feel like they're going to be connected to me on that level, yeah, I'll share. And typically that's right. So knowing like when is the right time to share too. This is my podcast. This is my space. So I'm going to go as deep and most vulnerable and honest as I want to, because this is my truth and this is my container that I've held. And I've set the intentions that people who are listening feel very similar or showing up in a similar way, can respect this, enjoy it, whatever it is. So that's you, right? You get this. But a lot of people don't. And so I learned to just be quiet. I don't have to fight. This is not a battle for me to fight. It shows up with how I choose to live my day to day. And if people don't like that, that's fine. That's totally fine. I'll know not to talk about it with them. Or, I think that's really what has helped me. And the fear has calmed down over the years as I've practiced, as I've grown strength in this area, to note that this is just me. It is me. And I have no fear or shame in sharing that. But I will also protect myself with a boundary and know when to keep my mouth quiet. And that's fine. I'm totally fine with that because there are many people who want to hear and explore this realms with me and get supported. So here's to you. I know you're one of them. Next is, what are my intuitive gifts and how did I learn to trust my intuition? I adore this too because this is so fun. I love intuitive origin stories. Can I tell you that? Like, y'all, if you're excited by this, please let me know. And I will start to just somehow ask people, or maybe I'll do some prompting and get people to share their intuitive origin stories and then read them, or have a couple people come on and we could all share them. I don't know. I feel like there's something there about this though. If you're intrigued as well, let me know and I can start to think about that a little more. But yeah, what are my intuitive gifts? So from a young age, I didn't know I was intuitive because I've never heard that word. That was not a thing. I would say I was sensitive. I knew I was sensitive. I had a lot of feelings that I would feel through my body, and I just did not have the space, the knowledge to know what it was. I slept with a nightlight on for most of my life until I had a partner who I lived with, and then I couldn't sleep with a nightlight on. And that was like in college. So, yep. And that was because I could just feel the energetic presences of often negative beings. Sometimes they were fine and I could tell and I could sleep okay, but I feel like there was just like those jokesters. And as I've come to know more about the different beings and how energetically we're interacting with things and boundaries, oh, it's gotten 1,000 times better. But as a child, and like I said, I was a very negative Nelly. I was attracting very negative spirits and energies. But at the time, I didn't know this. I just could feel it. And I would have photos knocked down in the middle of the night, some on top of me. I would have little like sounds and things come up. And I remember having experiences all the way back to like being like 4 years old. My brother and I, Austin, we shared one. And I, at some point, I'm going to figure out a way to have him on because he is the polar opposite of me in everything that I do and think. But I love him and I love his brain. But we had a shared experience as a child. And I'll save that for if I do have him on because it was just, it's so crazy. But as I got older and as I started to learn, like I would know about psychics, and my dad was super intuitive, had tons of gifts. He told us multiple stories where he saw, like literally physically saw past loved ones, like in a field, was woken up in the middle of the night, someone was talking to him, and then they would just disappear. But he came from, again, like a more curious, but this isn't real, very analytical mind, and didn't really trust it. But we would always watch the supernatural ghost stories and history channels. I mean, we all loved it. And so I knew that I was coming from a line of intuitively gifted people. His mom, as well, was a practicing psychic and intuitive. She worked with police departments and other people to help find missing people and give insight. Like, she was very trusted, but she passed when I was 12 or 13, and she lived in another state in Missouri. And so we never really got to see her. And at the time, I was very young and she just didn't really share any of that. Yeah, so I knew I always had something. And then I started having some really wild, deep channeling experiences. And this was after, though, we would have like hauntings in our homes, in our apartments, especially Steven and I. I don't know what we attracted, but they seemed to know that we were somewhat open, and we had some really crazy, weird experiences in some of our apartments together. But again, would always kind of affirm, like, okay, we would have it together and say, okay, this is real. Okay, there's something to this. And then it fast forward to some deep energetic channeling experiences through starseed beings, specifically the Pleiadians, and that skyrocketed my intuitive gifts. I was starting to explore, do automatic writing, doing channeling even verbally, so that I would channel and then speak into a voice notes app and see what would come through. But at this point, I had learned more about boundaries. I learned more about how to connect safely, how to deal with the encounters when there were ones I didn't want to have. And so my intuitive gifts are, I can hear. So it's on my left side. I hear sounds, but then I also very much visually see. Like, I'm a very vivid dreamer and have just a vivid mind. I can see, like, it's like a movie in my head. And so, especially when I channel the Akashic records, that's how I'm getting information. I am being shown information, and then I'm hearing information, so I can write it, or I can get like a word or make sense of it. So I often have to couple the two of those things to make sense of what whomever I'm channeling or what information I'm gathering wants to share. And then I can feel, so I'll get like emotional feelings in certain areas of my body that I then tune into and say, okay, why is this showing up here? What's the energy there? And then I'm also a psychic medium, I would say. So back to, I think it's episode 4 with Angela Husney about trusting your intuition. She really dives into the difference between psychic medium and just intuitives. They are different, but so psychic mediums are very specific to passed on souls, spirits, deceased entities, beings. And that is something I'm able to do. So I can tap into loved ones. People typically will come through if they're really open, or again, if my boundary isn't set very strong and I'm talking to someone, I can have a grandma or someone pop through. I've learned not to typically share those information unless it feels really strong or they feel very like they might be open or needing this. And I will always ask them, would you like to receive? If not, it's totally okay. But thankfully, that doesn't happen as much, but it does. And also, I really can pick up energy from items. So, historical pieces that have been around a long time. My husband just brought this box in like a week ago from his parents. His parents collect tons of historic and European furniture and pieces. And as soon as I touched it, I saw this older gentleman, like he would store his watches in there and he had a key and he would open and close it. And I could just feel him. And it had been a while since I've had that experience. And I went, whoa, okay. Hello, sir. Boundaries. Like, let me clear you out. Like, is there anything you want to share? And I have gotten really good about smoking, so saging or Palo Santo, our home, because I'm just so energetically sensitive. I pick up on things. So with the land, when we go places to homes, I'll pick up on people who have passed or associated with the land who haven't moved on. I can connect very deeply to the earth, to animal spirits. They like to come through a lot when I channel or in my meditation. I really love them. I feel like they're so supportive and have just a deep reverence for the animal and just earth realm. But I also love the star seeds, and I think there's a lot of star beings that are super supportive. So gosh, that's a lot. I have lots of intuitive gifts, I guess. And how I learned to trust it was just exploration and getting curious around it. And also, when I did my Reiki Master program, that was, I think, a 6-month program. And it was me, Angela, lovely Angela from episode 4, and our teacher, who is a beautiful, beautiful soul. And she did wonderful job of opening the space to not only Reiki, but in intuitive powers and learning about all this stuff that I just really shared. So she was a great container and mentor that helped me get strong and affirm the messages and the things that were coming through. And so I would suggest, if you're someone who's really struggling with trust, start to find someone, start to find a friend, a group, a program, something to, not to say you have to pay for it, but I think it is so helpful to have a container where people get you, people understand you, you can ask questions, there's guidance, and it is nice when you're paying someone. It feels like there is that reciprocity in that relationship where they can really give you the attention, the time, versus asking an intuitive friend all these questions. Yes, I'm sure they'd love to do that with you, but if you're really wanting to go deep, I would recommend finding a book or some mentor or a person that you can work with more closely to explore your own intuitive gifts, because we all have them. We're all going to have them in different ways. And note that they shift and change. Like mine have changed so much, and or what, not necessarily like my gifts, but the focus of my gifts, who I'm channeling, what I'm working with, what I'm learning internally. It's just been really incredible to watch and reflect back on how much it has changed. Another question, which is kind of similar and a fun one: did I connect to any of my babies in spirit before they came earthside? Oh, yes, I totally did. Actually, one of my strongest and biggest intuitive connections to with my children came when I was pregnant, like 5 weeks pregnant with Lily. And this was almost before I was really even, I was not channeling, I was not having or doing any of this information. I was probably just starting to reawaken these gifts at this time, but I was in this extremely distraught place. Steven and I at the time technically weren't together. We were seeing each other, but we were not in a relationship at that time. And it had been a very tumultuous couple months beforehand, but we couldn't stop. We loved each other and we're just like, we're going to keep doing this. We're crazy kids, you know? And I didn't even realize I was pregnant. I just realized one day I missed my period. I was like, ooh, that's weird. I should maybe get a test because it's like a week or two late. Like, how have I not realized this? This is extra late, and I'm very on it. And so when I found out I was pregnant via the test, like called my doctors, immediately got in to get a blood test. They thought I was crazy. Like, again, I didn't know how any of this worked. I was like, pregnancy tests can be false, right? And they just looked at me like, no, honey, no, they can't. Like, your blood test is going to come in. And I remember even asking, like, the blood tests can be false, right? And they're like, no, you are pregnant. This is 100%. And when I got that call telling me that, I was at work. And so I like left and went for a walk and I called Steven. I was like, oh my God, this is happening. We need to figure this out. It's real. And I went back to my desk and I was just zoned out. Hot mess. What is happening? Here we are. How am I going to face it? And I'm zoning into, I don't even know, my computer, just like, whoa, digesting this. And all of a sudden I hear this voice, Mom, I'm here. You're okay. You're okay. You're safe. You're going to be okay. And I just like, what? I just like, okay, hello, who are you? Mom, it's me. It's your daughter. Like, I'm here with you. Like, my baby that's in my belly is talking to me. And I'm just like, okay. And she's like, there's 3 of us that are going to come through. Me, a boy, and a girl. And we're all here for you and we're going to love you and you're going to be okay. And this is your path. And then it just stopped. Like, that's all I heard. And I will reflect. So I did have a girl, a boy, and then my next born was a boy, but I did have a miscarriage in between. And I really, really strongly felt a girl that was wanting to come through there as like a girl in the physical. I still am undecided if Stone and that spirit are the same ones and they just came through in different ways. So they were right. Like, they were technically right. I did have a girl, a boy, and I'm pretty positive that one that didn't stick was a girl. But whoa, that blew my socks off. And I just, yeah, it was so, so strong and it felt so reassuring. And I knew from that moment, like, I would have her. That there was no question. I was going to figure this out. Steve and I would figure this out and we would go forward with this. So I did connect to her in that way. And I did continue to connect with her. I mean, this is a long time ago, so I can't remember exactly like all the ways that I did, but I loved prenatal yoga. I would recommend that for anyone who is pregnant. That always gave me the ability to get quiet, to feel her, to connect with her. Forest, I feel like I connected to, but not as deeply as the others. I'm not sure why. Forest was just quiet. That's how I would kind of, both my boys, Stone was as well. They were kind of quiet in the womb. And I knew they were going to be like softer personalities. Lily was very loud, very active, very busy. And that is her to a T out here in this world. But I do know I would spend time to connect and ask questions. And it's, it's super simple. Like, it can be. I just would place my hands on my belly or even just close my eyes and check in and say, how are you? Are you okay? I'd say that, now that I'm thinking about that, was how I would connect to my babies often. I could connect and have a conversation with them in the spirit realm by checking in and asking them if they're okay. Do they need anything? Do they want anything different? I never connected to them before I was pregnant, at least Lily and Forrest. I did start connecting to babies in spirit for the other 2. I knew before I got pregnant and we lost third one that there was babies. They were close. They wanted to come. I would talk about how I didn't feel like I was done. I could feel another one really nearby. And then right after that miscarriage, I thought I was going to have twins, to be honest. And I think it was just the merging of the 2. Not the merging, but like the 2 souls. That's why I think Stone is almost a distinct soul, different than this one, because I really felt the girl, but then Stone started coming through very, very strongly, but I thought the girl was going to come back. And so that was really interesting to just feel like, whoa, they're right there and they're both ready. They're like, let's do this. I think if we did get pregnant once more, I would be very shocked if it wasn't a girl. I think, soul contracts, timing, all the things, it would depend. And I think that's why that third didn't work out. It was just the timing, circumstances and things. I couldn't give what they wanted at the moment. So they left. And that's just how I see it. That's how I feel. And when I've talked to that spirit is how it's felt. But I still feel very connected to her. And then Stone, yeah, I had the same experience. I think I shared this in the My Story episode 1 of the podcast. Was I knew I was pregnant because I was running on a treadmill crying about my dad after his diagnosis. And I had the same thing. I wasn't even late yet. So there, I'll say that was a couple days before I would have been knowing I was late. Mom, I'm here. I'm back. Like, I'm here. We're going to do this. Like, they did say I'm back. So again, I think it more referred to, I am back. You're pregnant. Like, there's a baby. We're back. We're going to do this again. And this time it's going to stick. And yeah, so I loved connecting to them in spirit. And there is a beautiful book called Spirit Babies. Highly, highly recommend. The author, I think, has since passed. I wish I could have gotten him on the podcast or gotten to know them. But beautiful, beautiful book that can help share more about this topic if you're really interested in this. But yeah, if you want to get pregnant or even not, I've even known people who don't want kids, but can feel their spirit babies close with them like their whole life, that they're just there and they're around and they have a relationship and they feel like a mother or a parent, but they never actually birth the baby earthside. So know that, often a lot of us have little baby spirits that are surrounding us that just want to connect. And often they're from past lives or part of our soul family. And there's someone you can always feel into. Okay, so I will probably take one or two more questions because they kind of go together. And then I will save the rest of these questions for another episode. So, if you're interested, hit me up and I can put together another episode like this in the future. This question is, navigating postpartum, how are you feeling and what tips do you have for new moms? I would say being 9 months postpartum, I'm starting to feel better. And I say that gently because it's still hard. And truthfully, I feel like I will be postpartum my whole entire life. I mean, I think truthfully, any mother can claim that. It is a lifelong piece, right? Just because we had the baby and everything, it is so insane. And just calling postpartum 6 months, 1 year, even, 6 weeks, they give you the green light, go back to work, do your thing. I've known people who've gone back to work at 2 weeks. I don't know how you do it. You're amazing, beautiful woman, if that was you. And yeah, gosh, how do I feel? I feel tired. I feel off still. I feel like I'm still regaining balance. I still have mom brain. I think maybe that'll always be a thing for me. I struggle to just pull words out sometimes or remember dates. I really struggle with, but I also have had some concussions and different things in my life that I feel are probably part of that too. But yeah, it's hard but beautiful. I'm still nursing Stone. We're again at 9 months, and I nursed the other kids till 2 years. And I'm like, whoa, how did I do that? I'm truthfully just going to nurse him as long as I can nurse him. I've never had any of my kids wean themselves. I've had to, make the decision and say, nope, no more milkies, right? But I think until I'm done nursing, the hormones and how I feel won't balance for a while. I have not gotten a period postpartum either. And not to be TMI, but that's where I'm at and that's how I'm feeling. And so I can feel that my womb is acting up here and there, maybe trying to kickstart, but then not. And so I think once that starts, again, the hormones, the release, the ebb and flow, I'll start to feel again a little bit more like myself or what I think of as myself. But truthfully, I think I'm finding a decent place. I feel I can leave Stone for some of the day and he's safe and he's okay. Mom guilt, that's big. I still struggle with that. I just wish my partner and I had more time. I think that's the biggest thing I'm really feeling with this postpartum journey. Third time around is it's become even harder to have time together, to feel like we have any intimacy. It's hard, man. It's so hard. But it's to say it's so beautiful. These are the good times. These are the times I'm going to reflect back on in 10, 20, 30 years and say, wow, do you remember that little baby and how hard it was? And now look at us and all this time and the space we have. And I'm just excited to get to see my children grow up. So the tips I'd have for any new moms is give yourself grace, give yourself time and space to be in the thick of it. Especially, I always find the first 4 to 6 months can be really hard. They were so hard for me. I mean, I wish we could all pop out a baby at like a year old. And I think way more people would have kids, or we'd all be way happier mothers and fathers. But just be gentle. Don't force yourself into anything feeling like you need to look a certain way, sleep a certain way, be a certain way. Just give yourself time and space to maneuver the newness of being a mom, the newness of parenthood, the newness of you. Every time you have a baby, you change, you are different. And asking for help, asking for support, getting meals sent to you, having friends come sit with you, just whatever you need, going to mom's group, lean on community. That would be my number one tip, because it's going to make you feel more normal. You're going to feel way better when you're around other people going through similar things or who have gone through it and just can hold space for you and see you. And take as much time as you need in this postpartum bubble. Don't feel like you have to be anywhere, go anywhere unless you want to, unless that's like something you feel good about. But for me, I never did. And so knowing, don't compare. I'd say never compare yourself to other moms. It's nice to sometimes get advice, or is this normal, or I'm going through this, advice, but you do you. Trust your intuition, trust yourself, talk with your doctor if you need extra help and support. And yeah, you've got this. No, it's a season. It will change, it will shift. It gets better, it gets harder in different ways, but sleep will come. Your body will balance out in time. You'll feel more like yourself. I would say, never going to feel like you were before being a parent, but you find a new normal and you find a new existence within yourself. And just, yeah, love yourself, love your baby, love this time, and cry. Cry as much as you need. Yeah, that'd be my advice. And the last question is, how do you feel good in your postpartum body? What has changed in your body since having kids, and how have you found peace in it? Y'all got so real with these questions, and I'm here for it. This is beautiful. I feel mostly good in my body, and I would say it's because I don't wear super tight clothes, period. Um, when I wear tight clothes, I feel all my love handles, all my, extra fat that I'm still storing as I nurse my baby and do that. And if I try to fit into clothes that I used to wear, like I can semi-fit into them, but I can't zipper them. I can't wear them. I had this experience when I went back to work, and I was like, I'm going to wear my cute work outfits. And I was like, JK, I can't zip these up. I'm going to give myself a year before I start chucking anything, because I think, again, to my point, like I'm still nursing. It's going to take another year probably for my body to balance out and re-find its normal spot where it's going to sit. So don't put on those clothes that are too tight or that you feel like you really want to fit into. Like, no, it's not going to make you feel good when you try to zip it up and you can't. So narrow in on your clothes and find the ones that you feel confident, beautiful, that you rock. Doesn't matter. And ignore the size. I don't have a scale. I don't weigh myself. I have no idea how much I weigh at this moment. For me, my level of health and how I feel in my body comes from my strength of how do I move my body. Can I go on this hike and not get super out of breath? Can I do this yoga class and just feel strong? And some days are so hard. I tried to do yoga last week and I had the worst vertigo, and I think it truly helped, but I felt like a wreck. I was like, this is an easy flow and I can't even do this. So noting it's going to ebb and flow. And some days are really hard. Some days I look at myself and I see my tiger stripes, as I would say, on my belly of all my stretch marks. Yep, I got stretch marks, got them real good, but they lessen. They're not as dark as they used to be. And I kind of love them too. Like, I don't like showing them to the world, but I love looking at them and saying, dang, this body carried 3 beautiful, healthy babies. And yeah, we did it. I find the way to have reverence in myself and in my body for all that it's given me. And knowing that I have never seen my body as perfect, but I have found ways to adorn my body with an outfit, with earrings, with jewelry, with a scent that makes me feel good. And I was actually just reflecting on wanting to even start maybe wearing a little makeup. I'm mostly natural. Like, I went to work again last week and I had eyeshadow on, guys. Eyeshadow, mascara, period. Nothing else. And someone goes, whoa, you look so different. You're wearing makeup. And I was like, oh, wow, that's crazy that is like, that's the reaction I just got because I'm always fresh faced. And I feel good. I will say I feel confident, fresh face. I'm still going to do that a lot. But I also miss kind of getting dressed up and doing my hair and putting on a little eyeshadow and saying, look at me now, right? I think find those ways that you feel like you feel good, even if you're not in the body that you would love. It's not as strong. Maybe it's a little stretched out and all the things. But no, there's things we can do, right? We can do exercises and eat certain ways. And, for me, there's a lot of tonality. I really struggled with varicose veins. I think I have a very sluggish liver. This is something I am investigating as I do my herbalism course, because a lot of when I'm learning about the liver, a lot of the issues that I've faced, especially through pregnancy, point to the fact that my liver and digestion is probably not where it could be. And that actually affects like your vein tonality and your skin tonality and elasticity. And so I'm just learning more about that and trying to find ways, and like gua sha, and dry brushing, just trying to help my skin rejuvenate, my lymphatic system move. I am super into health and wellness and trying all the fun things to just be our best self. So I've learned to own it. I'm in the body I'm in. It has changed so much. I gained 55 pounds with my last pregnancy. Mr. 9.5 pound little boy came out of my body, and I was like, whoa, okay. And knowing that I needed a lot of the fat to nurse him, I like made acceptance and peace with it, noting this is a season. I know my body will change. It will probably not be how it was. And I'm okay with that because I feel strong and healthy and good in my body now. So my tips would just be to get to a place where you feel strong, even if your body isn't looking the way you thought it would. But can you feel strong and healthy, and let that be enough? And get a new wardrobe if you need to. Get some new makeup, dye your hair. I mean, the little things can go a very long way if you're feeling really out of sorts and like you need a change, and you're not seeing the change that you want quick enough. But mama, you did an amazing job. You birthed your baby. You had a baby, whatever it was, however they got here. Give yourself some self-love. Give yourself some space to just adore the phase that you're in, because it is so temporary and things will shift and it will change. I hope that was insightful and helpful. I found that to be very fun. Thank you all for sending in those questions and for asking this of me and wanting to learn more about this. I just feel so grateful and lit up walking away from this episode. So thank you. I hope you have a wonderful next few weeks and get ready for some wonderful interview episodes coming your way. I've got a few lined up and scheduled, so stay tuned for that. Go out and live your wildest life. Here's to you. Here's to us. We can bloom where we're planted. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much for listening to the Live Wildly podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review the podcast on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. It goes a long way to helping gain new listeners and fills my heart to see your reviews every time it comes through. It just keeps me inspired and going on this journey. And if you'd like to learn more or follow Olivia further, you can check me out at www.olivia-ashley.com. And just there's a lot there that you can check out, and you can learn more about the podcast episodes. You can also follow along on Instagram at wildlyolivia or at Live Wildly Podcast. So thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate all of you listeners, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks again.